FBI removes Rick Harrison's old floors. What they found left. Everyone speechless. When a case involving one of reality TV's most iconic figures from Pawn Stars was exposed, the world thought the biggest secrets had already come to light. However, what the FBI discovered beneath the old floors of Rick Harrison's gold and silver pawn shop shocked everyone to their core. These discoveries not only changed the way we view a once-beloved reality TV empire, but also opened a new chapter in the investigation of international crime. Join us as we uncover the secrets buried beneath what seemed like ordinary floors, and what they reveal about a hidden criminal net war. If you find this story fascinating and want to uncover more hidden secrets, don't forget to leave a comment. Type 1 if you sympathize with Rick Harrison, or 0 if you have a different opinion. Make sure to like and share so your friends can follow the story too. From a routine audit to an FBI investigation. No one could have predicted that a routine financial audit, a standard administrative procedure conducted every few years, would become the catalyst for the downfall of one of America's most iconic reality TV brands, the gold and silver pawn shop, the Las Vegas establishment that served as the backdrop for hundreds of episodes of Pawn Stars, famous for its intense negotiations and bizarre artifacts, has now become the epicenter of a massive federal investigation. The story began in late 2023, when the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, discovered irregularities in the financial records of Rick Harrison, the longtime owner of the gold and silver pawn shop, and his son, Corey, known for his sharp negotiating skills on Pawn Stars. Minor discrepancies in income reports, suspicious money transfers between accounts, and unusually large volumes of cash transactions quickly caught the attention of the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. A deeper analysis revealed that these transactions weren't solely tied to the regular operations of the pawn shop, but were also linked to a series of underutilized accounts and subledgers. Several substantial expenditures, such as real estate purchases in Las Vegas and investments in rare collectibles, appeared inconsistent with the Harrison family's publicly declared income, prompting the FBI to question the existence of undisclosed funds. To avoid raising suspicion, the FBI opted to launch a discreet investigation. A team of agents specializing in financial crimes was deployed to monitor the activities of Rick and Corey. They coordinated with banks to trace the flow of money, identifying multiple transactions that had been deliberately structured to avoid mandatory anti-money laundering reporting thresholds. At the same time, undercover agents interviewed individuals who had dealings with gold and silver, ranging from customers selling antiques to various suppliers. Several disclosed that Rick and Corey often paid cash for high-value items without requesting detailed invoices. The FBI also scoured social media and past interviews of the father-son duo, searching for clues about their lifestyle or any suspicious transactions. One post by Corey bragging about a newly acquired vintage car raised agents' suspicions regarding the source of the funds. To conduct a first-hand assessment, they deployed undercover agents posing as customers, bringing in fake antiques such as rare watches and paintings. An undercover agent recounted a case in which, after presenting an item claimed to be a Middle Eastern artifact, Rick Harrison not only accepted it but also suggested legitimizing it by bringing in an expert from the show to authenticate it. The turning point came when the FBI established a direct connection between an Egyptian artifact stored in the gold and silver pawnshop vault and an archaeological theft that occurred in Luxor in 2009. From there, they uncovered a chain of 17 other items with similar origins, all of which had been featured and appraised in episodes from seasons 4 to 10 of Pawn Stars. This revelation transformed the case from a potential money laundering or tax evasion investigation into one involving international art trafficking, a serious federal and transnational crime. In the months that followed, every lead pointed back to the gold and silver pawn shop, once considered a sacred ground for priceless antiques. The FBI discovered that the shop was not just a storage space for artifacts, but the central hub of a complex trading network. High-value items such as antique jewelry and historical memorabilia were being purchased for significantly less than market value and then resold for substantial profit. Only a small portion of these transactions were officially reported. A major breakthrough came when the FBI analyzed a shipment of gold delivered to the shop. The documentation revealed a suspicious origin and signs of forgery. Their suspicions were further confirmed when agents uncovered evidence that secret shipments were being delivered to the store at night using unregistered vehicles. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses captured packages being hurriedly unloaded after hours, with no records of these shipments appearing in the official inventory. These illegal activities led the FBI to believe that gold and silver could be involved in sophisticated money laundering or art smuggling operations. With mounting evidence, from shady financial transactions to secretive late-night deliveries, the FBI decided it was time to act. They obtained a search warrant for the gold and silver pawn shop. In the early hours of 2024, a federal task force raided the premises, and within its walls, the final secrets began to unravel. On March 14th, Rick and Corey were arrested following a surprise raid on both the pawn shop and their private residence in Summerlin. There were no screams, no resistance. The father and son emerged from the shop in handcuffs, heads bowed low. The gold and silver pawn shop, located on the bustling Las Vegas Boulevard right in the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada, had long been a familiar landmark. With its glowing neon sign and nostalgic atmosphere, the store became a must-visit destination, not just for locals but also for tourists, thanks to its fame from the hit reality show Pawn Stars. Founded in 1989 by Richard "Old Man" Harrison and his son Rick Harrison, Gold and Silver began as a modest shop specializing in antiques, jewelry, and collectibles. The shop's growth was closely tied to Rick's sharp business instincts, which transformed it into a global brand, where one could find everything from vintage watches to war memorabilia. The origins of gold and silver stemmed from the Harrison family's deep-rooted passion for antiques. Richard, a military veteran, used his retirement savings to collect items of historical significance, while Rick learned the art of appraisal and negotiation from a young age. With the addition of Rick's son, Corey, the store expanded its operations, attracting customers with a wide array of unique finds. However, beneath this legal facade, the FBI began to suspect that the shop was more than just an antique store. It was a hub for covert operations. Significant cash transactions, opaque bookkeeping, and items with suspicious origins had been drawing investigators' attention since late 2023. The suspicions reached a climax when, in the early months of 2024, the FBI secured a search warrant for the gold and silver pawn shop. A special task force raided the premises, seizing ledgers, computers, and questionable artifacts. During a meticulous inspection, they made the decision to pry up the old floorboards in a rarely used storage area at the back of the shop. What they discovered sent shockwaves through the entire team. Beneath layers of old plastic sheeting were the remains of no fewer than 20 individuals. Initial assessments identified 15 men and 5 women, all in advanced stages of decomposition. The state of the bodies suggested they had been hidden there for years, possibly dating back to the early 2010s. Marks found on the remains indicated they were victims of homicide, with several showing wounds consistent with sharp force trauma. Subsequent autopsies revealed even more chilling details. The bodies had been buried beneath the storage room floor for at least 15 to 20 years, with remnants of clothing and personal items dating back several decades. Although no formal identification documents were found, a ring with engraved initials discovered on one of the female corpses provided the first tangible clue to a victim's identity. The FBI suspects that the victims may have been connected to the shop's shady dealings in the past, possibly as associates or customers who were silenced to protect secrets. Even more concerning was the discovery that the storage area had undergone multiple renovations over the years. However, no employees had ever reported anything, a fact that led the FBI to question whether Rick and Corey were aware of the existence of the bodies. During a thorough search of the gold and silver pawn shop, the FBI also discovered a hidden room concealed behind a bookshelf in the basement, secured with a combination lock. When they broke in, they found a carefully curated collection of antiques. Among them were golden statues from the Inca period, clearly looted from archaeological sites in South America, along with a collection of ancient jade artifacts from China that are listed as prohibited for international trade. Additionally, a first-century Roman ceramic vase, suspected of being smuggled from Italy, was found wrapped in silk and stored inside an intricately carved wooden box. These artifacts, worth millions of dollars, lacked any legal documentation, strongly suggesting that Rick was deeply involved in a global cultural heritage trafficking network. As the sweep continued, agents discovered a small safe hidden inside the master bedroom closet of Rick's home. Inside, they not only found a large amount of cash and gold bars, but also a digital hard drive. After analysis, the FBI discovered hundreds of audio files, including voice recordings of Rick negotiating with individuals who identified themselves as suppliers. In one excerpt, Rick discussed receiving special goods at night, instructing them not to leave any traces and to be paid in cash to avoid complications. Another recording captured a tense conversation in which Rick appeared to threaten an uncooperative associate, ominously implying that curious individuals rarely end up with favorable outcomes. These recordings became crucial evidence directly implicating Rick in illegal transactions. Another chilling discovery made by investigators was an old leather-bound notebook hidden in the drawer of Rick's desk. The notebook meticulously documented transactions dating back to the early 2000s, listing items such as undocumented gold jewelry and even mysterious names alongside large sums of money. Some entries referenced the rear storage area of the gold and silver pawn shop, the very place where the bodies had previously been discovered. The evidence collected from Rick's home alone was enough to ensure he would stand trial. Rick and Corey's reactions to the discoveries stood in stark contrast. Rick remained unnervingly composed while answering FBI questions, calmly denying any knowledge of weapons or bodies and dismissing everything found in the shop as a misunderstanding. He claimed the safe might have belonged to a former employee and that the storage floor hadn't been renovated since his father's time. Corey, on the other hand, appeared visibly shaken, repeatedly insisting he had nothing to do with any of it and was deeply distressed upon hearing about the bodies. He tried to shift the blame onto former suppliers or customers, but the anxious look in his eyes told agents he knew more than he was admitting. Both were allowed to leave after the initial questioning, but were placed under close surveillance. The case sent shockwaves not only through Las Vegas, but across the entire United States. The gold and silver pawn shop, once a cultural icon, was now viewed as a den of crime. Media outlets eagerly covered the discovery of the bodies and illegal artifacts, while the public was stunned to learn that the Harrison family, Rick, Corey, and others, had lived and worked directly above the burial site of these victims for 2 decades. Perhaps the most chilling realization is that thousands of customers, from locals to tourists, had walked through the shop, stood on the warehouse floor, and even taken selfies, completely unaware that they were standing above the remains of murdered individuals. The once bright image of the gold and silver pawn shop is now shrouded in the grim reality of a deadly secret. If you found this story captivating and want to join us in uncovering more thrilling cases, be sure to like the video and share it with your friends so everyone can follow along. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos filled with shocking twists and fascinating truths. Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think and continue the conversation about these intriguing topics. The criminal network orchestrated by Rick Harrison went far beyond a chain of financial fraud or illegal artifact trading. Behind the facade of a wise father and familiar antique appraiser on television was a tightly organized underground operation that stretched far beyond the borders of the United States, reaching into the most unexpected corners of the globe, from Asia and South America to the Middle East and Eastern Europe. The FBI believes that for over a decade, Rick had built and maintained a sophisticated system dedicated to sourcing, transporting, laundering, and selling illegally obtained antiquities, rare artifacts, and even ancient weaponry. At the heart of this network remained the gold and silver pawn shop, a place where illegal goods could be legitimized through the lens of reality television. But behind the glamour, television cameras unknowingly captured the roots of smuggling that stretched from archaeological hotspots like Syria, Iraq, and Egypt to secret warehouses in Mexico and Serbia. Items stolen during civil wars, looted from ancient tombs, and even taken from local museums were all funneled through intermediaries under Rick's orders. One of the most pivotal figures among these intermediaries was a Serbian operative known only by the code name the Blind Watchmaker, who had previously been wanted by Interpol for his role in the looting of royal tombs across Europe. The FBI discovered that the network was not only involved in the trafficking of antiquities, but also engaged in large-scale money laundering. Profits from the sale of these artifacts were funneled through multiple offshore bank accounts in tax havens, such as the Cayman Islands and Singapore, before being brought back into the United States in the form of real estate investments or high-value collectibles acquisitions. Although Corey Harrison was not identified as the mastermind, he played a crucial role in overseeing transactions at the shop level and communicating with international intermediaries. Some recordings found in a safe at Rick's home revealed conversations with individuals who identified themselves as suppliers from Bogota and Bangkok. In these discussions, Rick talked about special shipments and methods to evade customs scrutiny. The crimes of this network went beyond financial fraud. The victims discovered beneath the floorboards of the gold and silver pawn shop were individuals who had once collaborated with the Harrison family. These included a former financial employee and antique appraisal expert, as well as a man identified as a cybersecurity consultant who had worked for the Pawn Stars show. They all had one thing in common. They knew too much, or had threatened to reveal information related to the Harrison family's illegal activities. An internal FBI report revealed that before his death, one of the victims, Eli Sandoval, had sent an encrypted email to the Las Vegas Post warning, "Rick Harrison is not just a TV personality. He runs a bloody trade network that the media has never suspected." But before the information could be published, Sandoval was found dead in an abandoned cabin. His death was staged to appear as a suicide. The network was also linked to human trafficking gangs in Mexico and underground financial systems in Vice, where both Rick and Corey had previously made suspicious investments. A portion of the profits from the sale of antiques had been funneled back into these money laundering programs, further enabling criminal organizations abroad, including non-state armed groups. This evidence showed that Rick's network not only operated for profit, but also maintained complex ties to the international underground criminal world. Now, the items once displayed in the showcases of Pawn Stars are being reconsidered for their potential links to war loot, stolen artifacts, or evidence from murders. Unregistered statues, rare coins with unclear origins, are now regarded as evidence in a federal investigation that could stretch on for years. The deeper the FBI investigates, the clearer the picture becomes. This is not just the story of a man driven by an insatiable desire for wealth. It is a conspiracy cloaked by the bright lights of Pawn Stars, and now it is slowly collapsing under the weight of the truth. The death of Richard "Old Man" Harrison in 2018 was mourned by the world as the passing of a legend in the world of collectibles and reality television. It was believed that he passed away peacefully, a model father, an experienced businessman, and the heart and soul of the famous gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. However, as the dark secrets of Rick Harrison and his son Corey were brought to light through the federal investigation, the legacy of the elderly man was no longer seen as a beacon of honor, but rather as the foundation of a meticulously built criminal empire that spanned decades. What puzzled observers the most in his will was the complete omission of his son, Christopher Harrison, from inheriting anything. "I have deliberately not included any provisions in this will for my son Christopher," the document stated, with no reason or explanation given. At the time, the media described Christopher as simply an outsider, unrelated to the television show or the pawn shop business, and possibly estranged from the family. As FBI investigators began to review Richard Harrison's will, a crucial question arose. Was Christopher Harrison's exclusion an attempt to conceal or eliminate a potential threat from within the family? Richard's secret meetings with his legal advisor and the changes he made to his property holdings in the final months of his life raised strong suspicions about his motives. The decision to withdraw control from the original trusts and transfer full financial authority to Rick just weeks before his death was not an unexpected action, but rather a potentially calculated strategy. Legal experts, particularly specialist Jennifer Elkins, pointed out that making such changes without the involvement of an independent representative was highly unusual for an estate worth tens of millions of dollars. These alterations can now be seen as a deliberate move to solidify Rick's control over the financial and criminal empire he had built, especially in the context of the criminal network tied to the smuggling of antiques and other illegal activities. Adam Harrison's death caused a stir and raised many suspicions. Although the official report stated that he died from a heroin overdose, investigations by the FBI revealed several unusual signs. The lack of security cameras in the area where Adam was found, deleted data from his phone, and discrepancies between his call and message history before his death were factors that made this case more than just an overdose death. Audio recordings recovered from Adam's phone revealed that he had planned to expose the illegal activities of the Harrison family, including transactions involving hot goods from the Middle East and an unregistered warehouse 40 miles outside Las Vegas. One of the calls recorded Corey Harrison's voice making a clear threat to Adam. This opens up the hypothesis that Adam's death was not an accident, but rather a deliberate act aimed at eliminating the final threat to Rick's criminal empire. One chilling theory suggests that Adam's death was the result of a targeted attack aimed at eliminating the only person capable of exposing Rick Harrison's criminal scheme. This adds to the growing suspicion about the involvement of Rick and his family in criminal activities, raising the question of whether Adam's death was part of a strategy to protect the family's empire. All of this leads to a crucial question. Will the upcoming trial truly reveal the full truth, or is it merely a stage performance designed to manipulate justice and the media? The investigation and the upcoming trial will determine whether these secrets are exposed or forever hidden, and whether Rick Harrison and his family will be held accountable for the crimes they have committed. The trial of Rick Harrison and his son, Corey Harrison, is set to begin in the fall of 2025 at the Nevada Federal Court, attracting national attention. The courtroom in Las Vegas will be packed with reporters, Pawn Stars enthusiasts, and those curious about the case that brought down the gold and silver pawn shop. The tense atmosphere enveloped the courtroom as Rick entered calmly, yet with tired eyes, while Corey appeared anxious and sleep-deprived. The federal prosecutor charged the Harrisons with offenses related to the illegal trafficking of antiques, money laundering, possession of illegal firearms, and complicity in murders linked to the bodies found under the shop's warehouse floor. The trial, which lasted for weeks, became a fierce legal battle between the prosecution and the defense team. Prosecutor Martha Quinn began the trial with a powerful statement. She argued that Rick and Corey had exploited their fame to conceal a transnational network trafficking in ancient artifacts, laundering money through pawn shop activities and fraudulent investments, while silencing those who threatened to expose them. According to Quinn, this was not just fraud. It was a sophisticated structure akin to a mafia, hidden under the guise of an educational television program. The evidence presented was not limited to accounting documents alone. It also included wire transfer records to shell companies in the UAE, Malta, and Cyprus, along with surveillance footage from a warehouse on the outskirts of Las Vegas containing unregistered artifacts. Most importantly, There were audio recordings extracted from the phone of Adam Harrison, Rick's deceased son. In one recording, Rick is heard telling Corey, "If Adam talks, we're done. Do you understand me?" Along with this, the prosecutor presented an undeniable series of pieces of evidence, including audio recordings from a hard drive found in Rick's home. In it, he negotiates with suppliers in Peru and Turkey to ship stolen artifacts, demanding payment in cash to avoid detection. One particular recording that was shocking captured Rick threatening a colleague, saying that those who are curious don't live long, directly linking him to 3 of the bodies found under the warehouse floor. The prosecutor also presented Rick's notebook, which detailed shady transactions from the 2000s, including entries for unregistered gold and special goods that matched the timeline of the victims' murders. Additionally, surveillance footage showed late-night deliveries at the store, along with the discovery of a safe containing military-grade rifles and World War II-era grenades, reinforcing the allegations of illegal arms trafficking. The FBI presented further evidence of Rick's international network, including encrypted emails linking him to intermediaries in Mexico, Thailand, and collectors in Dubai. Illegal artifacts, such as Inca gold statues, jade artifacts from China, and Roman-era pottery, were displayed in court, proving that gold and silver were at the heart of the trafficking and cultural heritage trade. Regarding the bodies, the prosecutor revealed their identities: a Peruvian archaeologist, a Mexican intermediary, and an American collector, all of whom were killed after threatening to expose Rick's secrets. Autopsy reports showed stab wounds and signs of strangulation, indicating deliberate murder. The prosecutor emphasized that Rick not only knew about the bodies, but also intentionally concealed them, allowing his family and customers to unknowingly walk over their graves for 20 years. The defense team, led by a prominent lawyer from Las Vegas, attempted to paint a different picture of Rick and Corey, arguing that they were victims of circumstance. They claimed that the illegal artifacts came from unethical partners, and that Rick, as an appraiser, was not responsible for verifying the provenance of every item. Regarding the recordings, the defense argued that they had been taken out of context and were simply standard negotiations within the antiques industry. Regarding the bodies, the defense argued that Rick and Corey were completely unaware of them, claiming that former employees or external enemies had used the store as a dumping ground. As for Corey, the defense emphasized that he was merely an employee following his father's orders and had no involvement in major decisions, pleading for leniency from the court. Numerous witnesses were called to the stand, adding multiple layers of drama to the trial. One of the key figures in the trial was Angela Mendez, the former chief accountant of the gold and silver pawn shop. Angela, dressed in a light gray business suit, her eyes clearly showing signs of anxiety, but her voice calm, was more than just a witness. She was the one who initiated the FBI's internal investigation nearly 2 years ago. Her initial report about discrepancies in the accounting system eventually became the key turning point in dismantling Rick Harrison's entire empire. Angela stood at the witness stand, her hands lightly gripping the rail. She recalled, "I used to think this was my dream job." "I started working for a well-known business, appearing on television with people everyone seemed to love." She paused, staring directly at Rick, who sat quietly next to his son before continuing with a slightly trembling voice. "But then I began to notice inconsistencies. unreported cash transactions, shipping costs. I wasn't allowed to scrutinize things thoroughly, and invoices from foreign companies had no real names. When I asked Rick, he just laughed and told me not to get into men's business, she recalled. That's when I realized I wasn't working for an antique store. I was working for an underground operation. She described one late night when she was called into the office to handle some urgent paperwork and accidentally saw a detailed inventory of items being shipped from the port of Haifa, Israel, to a logistics address in Arizona with no customs declarations. She vividly recalled a handwritten note on the margin that didn't account for laundering after 6 months. These testimonies pierced through the carefully constructed facade of over a decade, the image of a trustworthy middle-class American family living with a passion for collecting. But with each story, with each piece of evidence presented, the opposite became clear. They not only deceived their audience, but also deceived the legal system, conservation organizations, and the millions who believed in the value of history. The trial reached its climax when Rick took the stand to represent himself. He looked directly at the jury. In that moment, the familiar humor seen on screen disappeared. The spotlight was off, and the cheers of the audience were nothing but a distant memory. He declared, "I'm not a perfect man. I've done what I thought was necessary to protect my family. But if there's one thing I understand clearly today, it's this: I am completely innocent." He further claimed that the gold and silver were only used to facilitate legal transactions of antiques. Any illegal artifacts or weapons were allegedly brought into the store by deceitful partners, Rick claimed. As for the bodies, Rick asserted that he was horrified to learn the truth and had never suspected such a secret lay hidden beneath the store's storage area. He emphasized that he was a father, a businessman, not a criminal, and pleaded with the jury to recognize his true nature. However, his cold stare and lack of emotion led many in the courtroom to doubt him, especially as Corey sat beside him, constantly lowering his head and trembling. After 4 weeks of intense arguments, the jury deliberated for 3 days before delivering a verdict. The judge declared Rick Harrison guilty on all charges: smuggling artifacts, money laundering, possession of illegal weapons, and conspiracy to commit murder. With overwhelming evidence from the recordings, notebooks, and the bodies, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never leave federal prison. Corey, though regarded as his father's subordinate, was convicted of aiding and abetting smuggling and money laundering, receiving a 15-year sentence with the possibility of parole after 10 years. When the sentence was read, Rick maintained his cold expression, simply nodding lightly, while Corey broke down in tears, burying his face in his hands in despair, comforted by his mother from the courtroom. The trial concluded, leaving an indelible stain on the history of Las Vegas. Gold and silver, once a cultural landmark, were now sealed, with its artifacts confiscated to be returned to their rightful countries of origin. The public was stunned by the revelation that Rick, once beloved on Pawn Stars, was the mastermind behind a ruthless criminal network, leaving 3 bodies beneath the floor of his shop as a grim warning to anyone who dared oppose him. The case not only marked the end of the Harrison family's empire, but also led the world to question how many other secrets were hidden behind the dazzling neon signs of pawn shops. The public's reaction, following the conviction of Rick and Corey Harrison, was a wave of profound disappointment, not just with the two defendants, but with a beloved pop culture icon admired worldwide. Pawn Stars was not just a television show. It had become a place where history enthusiasts, collectors, and even casual viewers could connect over fascinating stories and savvy bargaining. The revelation that behind the glitz and glamour was an international criminal mastermind left many feeling deeply betrayed. Online forums and social media platforms were flooded with heartbroken comments from loyal viewers. "I used to watch Pawn Stars every night with my parents. It was a childhood memory," one user wrote on Reddit. "I never imagined that behind Rick's smile was a whole system of money laundering and artifact smuggling." The hashtag #PawnCars, a playful twist on Pawn Stars, quickly spread across social media, symbolizing the scar the show had left in the hearts of its fans. Even the Harrison family was not spared from the fallout. Deanna, Rick's ex-wife, shared with the press that she was completely devastated by the truth. "I had no idea about any of this. To me, Rick was always a passionate father about his work and his history." Even Christopher Harrison, Rick's son who was excluded from his will, declined to comment to the media, only writing on Facebook, "I wish things hadn't turned out this way, but maybe I never truly understood my family." The international antiques collecting community also publicly expressed their outrage. Experts who had appeared on the show claimed they had been exploited to legitimize items with questionable origins. A renowned auction house in New York called the case the largest stain in the history of modern antique trade. Many episodes of Pawn Stars were removed from streaming platforms. Some museums also began reassessing the provenance of items that had once been traded through the gold and silver pawn shop. Even in Las Vegas, where gold and silver had been a fixture for decades, residents couldn't believe it. The shop, once a famous tourist attraction drawing thousands of visitors each year, was now closed, sealed off with FBI tape, and regarded as the crime scene of a decades-long operation. After Rick Harrison, Corey "Big Hoss" Harrison and Austin "Chumley" Russell were convicted of money laundering, artifact trafficking, and involvement in a transnational criminal network, Pawn Stars faced an unprecedented crisis. A reality television empire once praised for its educational and entertaining value had now become a symbol of deception, collapse, and the betrayal of public trust. Immediately following the trial, the History Channel issued a brief statement, carefully avoiding specific details of the case, simply stating, "We are reviewing all content related to Pawn Stars and will make decisions that align with our core values as a network." However, within 48 hours, all episodes of Pawn Stars were removed from the History Channel's online platform and streaming services like Hulu, Amazon Prime, and YouTube TV. All related merchandise, including Pawn Stars, Do America, and other spin-offs, were also indefinitely canceled. Some internal sources revealed that the History Channel had received legal warnings from the government, urging them to cease airing content that could indirectly glorify convicted criminals, especially given the evidence that some episodes had inadvertently promoted items obtained illegally. The aftershocks of the scandal spread beyond the History Channel, impacting the entire reality TV industry. Many producers fear that the Pawn Stars case will lead to increased scrutiny of shows related to appraisal transactions or antique collecting content, which heavily rely on audience trust. Currently, the History Channel faces the threat of a class action lawsuit from advertisers, business partners, and even viewers who believe they were deceived throughout their time watching the show. The items once sold through the gold and silver pawn shop are no longer seen as historical artifacts, but as evidence of a true crime television show. Rick Harrison, once revered by millions as a symbol of knowledge, intellect, and passion for history, is now a convicted criminal serving a life sentence without parole. Rick has fallen from the peak of fame to the depths of infamy, all due to greed and the allure of scandal. His son, Corey Harrison, was also caught in the downfall, sharing in his father's disgrace. The story of Rick Harrison and the case at the gold and silver pawn shop is not just a shocking scandal, but also a reminder of the truth behind the glitz and glamour of celebrities. With horrifying secrets exposed, this case has completely changed the public's perception of one of the most beloved television shows. If you found this story intriguing and want to follow more mysterious cases and the hidden truths behind the bright lights of television, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our latest videos. We will continue to bring you closer to the dark side of seemingly invincible figures.